with Mari. I'm your mentor, Mari, and this is Forex 101. In this lesson, I want to introduce you to one of the simplest and most effective momentum indicators available, the MACD. The Moving Average Convergence Divergence, otherwise known as the MACD, is a momentum indicator that turns two moving averages into a momentum oscillator to predict trend direction. It can also help you determine when price is strengthening or weakening. Let's go ahead and examine the MACD indicator on a live chart. All right, you guys, so here we are in the live chart for GBP USD. We are looking at this currency pair on the daily time frame, and I'm going to be showing you guys how we can apply the MACD to the chart in order to determine entry signals as well as re-entry signals on this currency pair. So in order to add the MACD, you guys already know the deal. We're going to scroll up here to where it says indicators, and we're going to type in MACD, all right? And right here, it's going to pop up the Moving Average Convergence Divergence Indicator. So I'm going to tap that once, and boom, here we have it on the screen, our MACD. Now, you guys, just like any other indicator, you can come up here to the settings tab, right? And you can change the inputs for the MACD if you want to. But me personally, I'm going to leave them here on the default settings just because these settings have pretty much already been goated, right? Not many people actually change the settings on the MACD indicator. So let's go ahead and press OK. And I'm just going to zoom in here on the MACD indicator and point out a few things to you guys. So first we have our blue line. And our blue line is actually going to represent our MACD. Let's change this to the color blue. Okay, then we have our orange line. And our orange line is actually just going to represent our signal line. And you guys, the reason why we call this line our signal line is because when our blue line, right, our MACD line crosses our orange line, our signal line, we are actually going to take that as a signal to enter the trade, right? Whether that's for a buy or whether that's for a sell, that's for us to determine moving forward. But essentially what you guys need to know is when the blue line and the orange line cross, that is going to be a signal to enter a trade. Last but not least, the next part that I want to point out to you guys about our MACD is going to be our histogram. All right, so if you guys can see, we have these red bars. We also have these green bars, right? And these red and green bars oscillate. These are actually called our histogram. All right, so here we have our histogram. And last but not least, you guys, let me actually just go into the settings and make our baseline just a little thicker, just so you guys can see it. All right, so last but not least, we have our baseline. So I know I already went over the orange line and the blue line, but we're going to go over it one more time, right? Just to make sure you guys have a clear understanding of how they work. Our blue line is actually our MACD, right? And now our MACD can be compared to price, right? So whenever our MACD is moving up, we can expect price to be moving up. Whenever our MACD is moving down, we can expect price to be moving down, right? Then we have our orange signal line. Our orange signal line is going to act something like a moving average for our MACD, right? So if you guys remember our training on moving averages, If MACD is our price, when price is above the moving average, we are going to be looking for buys. And when price is below the moving average, we are going to be looking for sells. So again, in this case, MACD is our price. Our signal line is our moving average. So when you see the blue line crossing above, right? Whenever you see the blue line crossing above our orange line, that is going to be a buy signal. And whenever you see our blue line crossing below our orange line, that is going to be a sell signal. Now let's go ahead and talk about these histograms. Now, you guys, the histograms kind of aid in showing us the momentum of the market, okay? We have our histogram and we have our baseline. So the further our histogram is from our baseline, we can assume that price has a lot of momentum. Now, as our histogram starts to get smaller and our bars start to get closer to our baseline, we can equate that to the fact that price is actually losing momentum in this direction. As you guys can see, that was confirmed by our MACD and signal line. As our histogram began to get smaller, our MACD and signal line actually crossed, letting us know that momentum was shifting from the downward direction into the upward direction, right? We went from having red bars far from our baseline, coming closer, coming closer, coming closer. Then we finally had our bars flip. And now we have green bars, right? Letting us know that we have some buyer's momentum in the market. The further our green bars are from our baseline, the stronger the momentum of this trend. As our bars start to get smaller and get closer to our baseline, we then understand that the market is losing momentum, right? Buyers are losing momentum, and now sellers must come in and take control, even if it's just for a short period of time. So you guys, that is an easy way to understand how to use the histogram and the baseline together. Another way I like to actually use this baseline is to confirm the overall trend of the market. So what I have noticed is typically when price is in a strong downtrend, our MACD and our signal line will stay below our baseline. And you will kind of see it do this crisscross dance, right? Going back and forth below our baseline and just basically keep confirming re-entries for us. Now, as you start to see buyers come into the market, you will start to see that this line will start to make its way up above the baseline, as you can see here in this example. And for a strong buy trend, you will see the same thing. Let's see if I can find a strong buy trend in the past here. So this, you guys, we could have assumed that this was a strong buy trend in the market. As you can see, we have our MACD line and our signal line above our baseline, right? And you can see so many crosses that happened, you guys, while our MACD and our signal line remained above this baseline. Now, as buyers started to lose momentum, you can see our MACD and our signal line just began to become closer and closer and closer to our baseline until finally it broke through the baseline and confirmed this new ongoing downtrend. So I hope you guys are understanding me so far, since I am not really showing this in comparison to the chart. But I'm about to go ahead and show you guys some examples of this indicator with the actual live chart. So first things first, here on the daily chart for GBP USD, I want to go ahead and point out the overall trend of the market. So first off, you guys, just based off of our MACD, I can tell that this market is trending down. How am I able to tell that? Well, I just told you guys that when the market is in a strong downtrend, you will tend to see your MACD and your signal line kind of remaining below this baseline. And that's exactly what we see happening right here, you guys. We see our lines crissing, crossing, crissing, crossing, crissing, crossing, right? But all of this activity is going on below our baseline. So that is the first indication to me that this market is selling. But of course, I'm going to confirm it by drawing a downtrend. So I'm going to start this here, right? This is where our trend starts, and boom. Now you guys are able to visually see this downtrend with this trend line that I just used. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how you would have been able to use the MACD not only to get into this trade, but also to get into a few re-entries on this trade as well. So let's just go ahead and zoom in on this first opportunity here that we would have had to get into this trade. So as you guys can see, we did have the market come up to a level of resistance. I can tell that this is a level of resistance just based off of the past, right? If I draw a line here, I can see that price has come to this area in the market multiple times, right? So since we have this level of resistance here, right, and we see that price cannot break through this level of resistance, we would have just been waiting on a confirmation from our MACD letting us know that price was officially moving down. Now, for me personally, I would not know that price is officially moving down until I see the MACD and the signal line cross below our baseline. That is going to be the biggest confirmation for me, you guys, that price is shifting from an upward trend to a downward trend. All right. So we did get our MACD to cross our signal line right here at this point, at this blue line. If I zoom in, I'll show you guys, right? We had our blue line cross below and close below our orange line, which is our signal line. So that was our first signal to get into this trade for a sell. But I would have personally waited until the next candle. And the reason being is because I would have wanted to wait for our MACD to cross below our baseline as confirmation that price was really shifting down. So this right here, this candle is where I would have actually decided to get into the trade. Now, up here at the top, I got even more confirmation because I got a flat top Hakinashi candle, which also confirmed to me that seller's momentum was in the market. So this would have been my first entry on this trade. And you guys see that I got this indication to get into this trade because we had price coming up to a level of resistance, right? We had our MACD cross our signal line. We had our MACD cross below our baseline. And finally, we had a flat top Hakinashi candle. All great confirmations letting me know that seller's momentum was in the market. So now that we have gotten in on our first entry on this trade, we can start to prepare ourselves for a second entry on this trade. Now, if you take a look at the MACD, like I said, you guys, the MACD will provide you signals of when to get in for buys and sells. Now, I did tell you guys when the blue MACD is crossing below the orange signal line, you should be looking for sells. And when the blue MACD is crossing above the orange signal line, you should be looking for buys. Now, I do want you guys to make sure you are taking into account the overall trend rule that I just stated. Although we have our MACD line crossing our signal line upwards, in this instance, that does not mean that we would enter into this trade for a buy. Why? Because we have our MACD and our signal line below our baseline, which is an overall confirmation that price is downtrending and we should only be looking for sells. So even though we got this cross up with the MACD and the signal line, we would have completely ignored this, you guys. We are ignoring this entire move because this is telling us that price is buying when we know that the trend is in an overall sell. So remember, the trend is your friend. You want to trade with the trend, all right? Not against it. So with that being said, since we know that price is in an overall downtrend, we would have just been waiting for another cross down. And boom, we got it. Right here on this candle, we had our MACD cross, right? Let's zoom in. We had our blue MACD line cross below our orange signal line again, right? We are in an overall downtrend. This is what we want to see. We want to see the MACD crossing down on our signal line because the market is moving down, right? You guys, I don't know how much simpler I can make this. I don't know how much more I can break this down to you guys. If you are not understanding me at this point, I just don't know, okay? I just don't know because this is just too simple, all right? So we had our MACD. First of all, let's just take a look. Overall trend, MACD and the signal line are both below our baseline. Then we have our MACD crossing below our signal line. Then we have our first red histogram bar, right? Pushing away from our baseline. Then at the top, we have a flat top big body candle, all right? This candle is telling us that sellers have strong momentum in the market, you guys. So now with those, 3-4 confirmations, we should feel more than confident in knowing that this market is going to continue its push down, which it did. So boom, you guys, we got a second entry on this trade. But you guys, it doesn't stop here because what happened? We had our MACD cross up above our signal line, but look, we're still below our baseline. So we know that we would not have even taken this move into account. We are still in an overall downtrend. So we are looking for our MACD to cross below our signal line, which we got again over here, you guys. We got another cross. Actually, it was on this candle. If we take a look at the MACD, we had our blue MACD line crossing our orange signal line. We had our red histogram bar pushing away from our baseline. We still have our MACD and signal line below our baseline. On top of that, we have a flat top candle, and we can see that price is still respecting our trend line, right? How many more confirmations do we need in order for us to know that this is another great place to re-enter this trade? So we got one entry. We got two entries. Then we got a third entry on this trade. Now, after this third entry, we can actually start to see how momentum began to die down in the market. And it is still currently dying down. And the reason I'm able to notice that, the reason I'm able to see that, you guys, is because take a look in the past. Look at these bars, right? Look how much momentum was in these bars. compared to these bars. There's barely any momentum left in seller's territory. So with that being said, we know that price is going to buy soon. All we are waiting for at this point is for price to break our trend line, right? If price breaks our downtrend, that's going to be our first confirmation that price is starting to turn around. But when it comes to the indicator, what we're going to be looking for is our MACD and our signal line to cross above our baseline. Once these two lines cross above our baseline, that is going to be a final confirmation for us that price is now shifting from seller's momentum to buyer's momentum. All right, you guys, so now I'm going to show you another example, but just of a buy really quickly. Let's go back in the past. Let's find a good buy scenario. So from here to here, we have our uptrend. So let's take a look at what our MACD was doing at this time. All right, so we have the start of our uptrend happening over here. But according to our rules, we know that our uptrend really didn't start to around right here. So first things first, we have our MACD and our signal line crossing above our baseline, letting us know that price is shifting from seller's momentum to buyer's momentum. On top of that, we have our MACD, our blue line, above our orange line, letting us know that buyers are currently in control. On top of that, we have our first green histogram bar pushing away, up and away from our baseline, right? You guys can see that. That's our first green bar pushing up and away from our baseline. Then up here at the top, we have a green flat bottom candle. All confirmations letting us know that price is shifting with upward momentum. So this would have been our first entry on this trade. As you guys can see, even after this first entry, our MACD line and our signal line remained above our baseline, letting us know that the market was in an overall uptrend during this time. Now, since we know that price was in an overall uptrend, we are not going to be looking for any positions for sells. So even though we had our MACD line cross below our signal line, we are not paying attention to this move at all. Why? Because we know that price is in an overall uptrend. So why would we be looking for sells? That would be totally not smart, right? So what we would be looking for is our next cross up, right? With our MACD line crossing up above our signal line, which we did get right here. So that was when price officially crossed. As you guys can see, if you look at our histogram, we had a green bar pushing away from our baseline. And up here at the top, we had another flat bottom candle, which gave us a second entry on this trade. Then if you guys take a look at our MACD, you will see that the MACD line crossed below our signal line again, and it was heading towards our baseline. And it kind of retested our baseline as a level of support. And when it could not break our baseline as a level of support, why would we not take this as a third entry on this trade, right? If we zoom in, we can see right here, we got the blue MACD to cross up above the orange signal line. We got our first green bar pushing up and away from our baseline. And then up here at the top, we still have price respecting our uptrend, as well as we're just looking for a flat bottom candle now. So let's see. I don't believe this was a flat bottom candle. Let's see. No, it was not. This was a flat bottom candle, but it did not have much momentum. This was not a flat bottom candle, but this one was. This was a flat bottom candle, and this one had a little more momentum. So this is actually when I would have re-entered this trade for my third entry, you guys. So again, just remember that the point of re-entries is to maximize your profits. Why make 50 bucks on a trade when you can make 150 bucks on a trade because you got 3 different entries, right? Why make $300 on a trade when you can make $1,000 on a trade because you were able to get 2 other great entries on that trade, right? So this is why I love the MACD indicator, you guys. It's really accurate when it comes to finding those sniper entries and re-entries on these trades. So I really hope that you guys found this training useful. I hope you guys find a way to utilize this MACD indicator in your daily trading strategy. If you guys have any questions, you know where to reach me. But until then, I'll see you in the next class. That concludes this lesson. If you have any questions or remarks, please join my discussion board and make them known. Feel free to follow me on social media and leave this emoji under a recent post for a follow back. Thanks again for tuning in to Money with Mari, and I'll see you on the next episode of Forex 101.